Jumbo, welcome to Beyond 60. Victor here. Today is another episode, and I'm happy to redefine your retirement goals. In our last episode, we spoke about the misconception of retirement. And just to do a recap of what we said is that, to me, I think retirement is outdated. The way the formulation of how retirement is, to me, I think it's outdated. And one of the reasons I gave was people think that, you should wait for the employer to, fund your retirement so that you have a better retirement. That's one misconception. Another misconception was that you have to wait until a certain number of years for you to start saving. It shouldn't be that way as well. And then we said retirement is not always about money. There are other things that round up retirement as a whole, as an aspect. So in today's episode, we're going to speak about the retirement industry. For you to really understand what is it that you live under your obligation, you need to understand what are the regulations that are there, so that you don't sometimes even get scammed in these insurance things and these people coming you with so many products. Sometimes you need to understand even the history of how retirement was formed, so that you're able to get the bigger picture of how you'll be able to know how to retire. So in today's episode, I want us to speak about the retirement industry in Kenya. And today, the retirement industry, of course, of late has had some few changes here and there. But for you to really understand, I will always want to refer back to where we have come from. For you to know where you're going, you have to know where you came from. So for us, let us look at where the retirement industry came from, and then we look at where are we going and where are we now, so that we're able to make prompt decisions and learn from each and every one of them. So in the retirement industry today, of course, it is governed by a retirement body called the Retirement Benefits Authority. That body is like the prefect of all the retirement schemes in Kenya. It regulates how the investments are done, how the future holds. It does a lot of research on how the next generation, to ensure that, again, the government doesn't have a lot of burden, for paying pensioners. The concerns to you as a customer or as a citizen of this nation, it enables you to see what is your right, what can you do right, why you paid on time, what makes it, why investments done on time. So we'll be able to demystify that, and also the defined contributions, the contribution plans, the investment plans on how all these things are done. I think to me is important, so that as a person, when you want to see where the industry is going, you are able now to realize what is my position, what position can I take. In just to a nutshell, this retirement theory of employer, employee, employer contributing, employee contributing, it started way back in Germany in 1889 with Otto von Bismarck. The guy came up with a very good notion of, trying to create a situation whereby employees are well taken care of when they are at service or when they are not at service. And when they leave office, what do they do? So he came up with a small pensions kind of way, whereby when somebody retires, he's able to receive a monthly payment until that person dies. And that formation was called a defined benefit contribution. A defined benefit contribution basically means you initially, at that time, it meant that, the government literally took care of you, because it was the government's responsibility to take care of you. So once you do your work, you're employed by government, whether you're employed by industries and all that, you don't contribute anything at that particular time. And it reaches a point whereby now you are able to realize that the government takes care of you, even in terms of, what you'll get after retirement. So it determines the amount that goes to your bank every month until you die. So, coming to think of it, that notion was well taken care of, and then it spread all over the world. And Germany ruled, took that during the World War II and all that. And that generation, Generation X, really understands that that notion of, that pension aspect. But then there is another thing that arose somewhere in the 60s, whereby they said, the way they defined contribution, basically it means the government will take care of you. So you as an employee, you don't contribute anything. So what that one meant is it became very strenuous for government to pay, because you can imagine a whole bunch of a generation retiring at once. So it creates a whole lot of inconveniences in between. Inconvenience number one, you have to pay all these people until they die. So the perception is, now since these people are very comfortable, they even live longer. So you have to pay these people even longer. So the budget also increases each and every year, because now you have people retiring in the service that are people you expected that maybe by this time they will have died because of your research. I'll give you a small research on how that was done some time back, and it was very interesting in such a way that at some point you can imagine if a country goes to a research and then it determines that people are supposed to die by the year 70. Let's say maybe 1 million people are supposed to live up to the year 70. So as a government, you plan for 10 years, knowing these people will be able to, live up to 70, with the hope that we don't intend to spend a lot of money on these guys. We will hope maybe they will die in between, so that at least our budget goes down. But when these guys increase their years, because now they are not God, now if God gives you 85 years, what will you do? You have to pay these people until they die. So it became a very strenuous instant. And most governments in the world actually said, I think this thing is becoming very strenuous. So what else can we do to increase the contribution and make sure also the retirees retire confidently? And now there was now this notion, another notion that came in, which is a defined contribution. A defined contribution now changed everything. Is where now the employer now contributes and the employee now also contributes. And even how they pay at the end of the service, or the end of somebody getting to 60 or nearing the retirement, is very different again. Because now a defined contribution basically means whatever you have scooped all those years, whatever you have served in your number of service years, you're either given all of it. If it is 3 million and a home. That's it. So at the end of the day, you as a retiree, you have that personal responsibility to choose what to do with your retirement. And that's why you find in Kenya, maybe you can relate with some uncles and some our parents where they are at this particular point. Most of you will relate. Most of you have teachers, uncles who are teachers and uncles, where they say, they normally tell you, hii pesa ya pension tumekaa nayo, tumeifuata mpaka imefika mahali hata they even die even before even enjoying their retirement years. Why? Because the defined contribution, that is the consequence. Because now you find each and every government is trying to secure that. And if you can remember, I think when Kibaki came into power, he added another 5 years to our parents. My dad was a victim as well. So he added another 5 years. That 5 years was not to win them over. With his own wisdom, he saw that, if these people retire now, I'm not able to pay them. So what is the best thing? Extend their years. So the years moved from 55 to 60. Initially, people were retiring at 55 years. So it moved from 55 to 60. That was one of the reasons as to why that increase was done. So that's the Kenyan aspect of how the retirement industry is done. So currently what we have is a situation whereby we have mostly the defined contribution schemes, and we are now shifting to some sort of a DB, like a DB scheme. That's a defined benefit schemes, but now it is a little bit twisted in between. And the reason, I have a reason for that. So I will come back to that later. But one of the reasons as to why I'm very passionate about this channel will be able now to teach you and to really, really understand what is this concept of retirement. I'll keep repeating because that's the whole essence of you being here. I want you to understand that retirement is your personal responsibility. No one will come and teach you how to live your life beyond 60. You choose for yourself. And one of the things that we said in the video, if you want to see that video, you can see it down here on the links, that you can be able to redefine your own retirement yourself. Everyone is blessed differently, so we cannot say we'll have the same retirement. Everyone has been blessed differently. And one of these days, in the topics to come, we'll speak about different generations, Generation X, Generation Y, and Generation Z. And we'll see the characteristics on how their characteristics affect their pensions or how they save for their retirement. We'll come back to that later. But coming back to the regulations about the DB and the DC schemes, that's why the RBA is there, to make sure to caution the government and also to caution the customers. And these people play a very big role in ensuring that even the pension coverage is done correctly. Because you can have 100% pension coverage, but what are they really receiving? So coming to that, there needed to be a change on how these things are done on the industry itself. Not even in Kenya alone, because you'll find so many people retire, they even don't know when they retire, how much they will get. And those are some of the disadvantages of the DB schemes before. Because when you're employed, our parents used to say, you remember, most of you can relate. Our parents used to say, I didn't look for a job for a long time. In fact, my dad also tells me that when he was in college, they were being looked for. They are being looked after by the government itself. And once they finished, the job was already there waiting for them, because there are no people or Africans, that were really enrolling, especially to the industry that he was in. So coming to all that, it meant that the government bears the 100% liability on the people they employ. So that's why the pension aspect is there. And the reason is this. Again, the DB scheme was not very effective, because you couldn't just change jobs like the way us this generation we do. We stay for 3 years, we go somewhere else. Our interests are different, we want to be creative. But in those days, you could not do that. You will miss your pension. You will do 5 years and then somebody will come in and say, if you go, you will lose this pension. So you have to stay in government. And that is how the government now enabled people to work for so long, and people became very comfortable. So it reached a point whereby these people reach 50 years and they're like, well, I've worked for 20 years since I was 30, and I've worked here for 20 years. But when he looks at, sometimes even they don't even look at the statement because they were never provided at that particular time. So when somebody say, my DB, my government will take care of me. That was the notion at that particular. You focus on work. So they were really, really on productivity and, mainstreaming and all that. But, you're forgetting that you will not be there forever. So this generation has a little bit changed. And that's why I always thank the RBA for and even the government for thinking, let's change this thing. Because at the end of the day, people are suffering in between. And it benefits no one. Because at the end of the day, no country will want its citizens to suffer. No country will want its citizens to suffer. We will all want a government whereby the government takes care of its people. And RBA plays a very big role in ensuring that these policies are encroached in the pension, and rules and regulations are adhered to. So some of the challenges that are there are as many as they can come. But the challenge, main challenge is, one, the coverage. The coverage is still very low. We are still at 24%, 26% by now. So it means more than 70% of Kenyans are not saving for retirement, they are not, some of them even don't know. And if you look at the last census, it said that 75% of Kenyans are between the age of 35 and below. And out of that, 68% live in the rural areas. So it means there are so many youths who are outside there who live in the rural areas, but they really don't have anything else to do. What are they doing in the rural areas? Of course, they're farming. So when you're farming, is there any pension scheme in the agriculture sector? There is none. So RBA has to come up with, maybe I can even challenge them, to think of how do we involve other things, other sectors, to ensure that administrators, who are now the people who are handling the individual pension plans and what have you, come up with products that, entice them. And the RBA should not, insert so many sanctions. It's good to regulate, but again, it has to be practical enough, and it has to make sense at the same time. I'm not saying that it should allow, but we should also be creative in how we come up with this product as well. And the RBA again should not be very rigid to, in the name of securing the citizens' interest, just to make sure that, just to find it hard for administrators to find it hard to even come up with products that can really change the coverage. The whole essence is, if I look at the strategic plan of RBA, they have an obligation to increase the coverage up to 40-50%. So for them to do that, then they need to regulate new products to see how else it will increase the coverage. And one of the changes that has been there recently, you have seen that even the NSSF rates have now gone up. And them going up, it's a good thing. I will speak specifically on, I don't want to touch on their products specifically, but I will want to touch on how the NSSF thing has impacted the pension schemes, and negatively and positively at the same time. So in this industry, again, we will speak about that. And we are able now to realize the challenges that we are facing. There are so many main challenges that we can recall here. And some of it is basically your way of not understanding the education about the financial aspect of saving for retirement. And that is why this channel is there for you. If you want to learn about your retirement goals, how you live your life, because at the end of the day, we pray I always tell you, we always pray every day, oh God, give us a good life. Oh, I want to live until I see my greatest and greatest children. That's fine. But how will you define that between when you're now 60 and 85? Define that. So that education, I think it's missing. And that's why this channel is for here. There are so many products outside there that you can be able to join in. And I will advise, if you want to start your own journey on retirement, please take time, research about what kind of retirement you want, see at your age how much can you afford at this particular time, have a goal, have a short-term and long-term goal at the end of the day. Because if you wait for the policies or the industry to come in for you, it will be a very hard nut to crack, if I may put it that way. So don't really depend on the policies. As much as the policies are there, think about yourself, because government will come and go, regulations will come and go, but you are the one who will live the life. No one will come to live their life for you. So it is important you think about it, think about saving, and when you want to save, you can drop me an email. I will drop an email at the comments below or the links below. I will drop in my email. If you want to do an advice so that you can think on how you can start saving for your retirement, I'm always there for you, and I'm always we'll chat through. We'll be frantic, and we'll critique your idea, and I'll be able to catch the vision that you have, and make sure the most important thing in a retirement journey is consistency. When you start saving and then you don't have the consistent way of saving, you will miss the point of retirement. You have to be consistent and commitment. And of course, it takes planning. So you plan yourself first, then the rest of the things will now come in and say, I can be able to secure 1,000. I can be able to. And don't despise humble beginnings. You can start even with the smallest figure that you want, but you go increasing it with time. You can have other things you can do. I know it is hard. I know the economy is at the point of to its knees. But can I shock you? There is no time the economy will be tough. You either toughen it up or it squeezes you. Two things. It's either you style up, you shape up, or shape out. It's as simple, straight to the point as that. Because at the end of the day, you are the one responsible for your life. And no one will come to live your life, basically. So with that, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for subscribing to this channel. If you think this content is important, if you have learned something out of it, please leave a comment. Encourage a brother, Manzi. We'll be able now to encourage me to do these videos more and more. And if you want a topic for me to touch a topic, comment down there. Then we'll be able to touch it and we'll research it. And at the end of the day, your wish is my command. God bless you.